Welcome everybody to the Between Two Wheels podcast. This is Tyler Yonke. We've got Chris Flower with us. We're live out there to everybody. We're going to talk about the Tour of Turkey. Well, we're just going to talk a little bit about Cavendish, some Amstel Gold, some La Flèche Wallonne. Talk about Froome and a false positive that takes out the team UAE. It's what is it today? The 23rd of April. Happy Friday, everyone. Episode 234. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I did a long ride yesterday. Let me rephrase that. We did a lot of climbing yesterday. I didn't do a long ride. That was Jonathan Baker. He did a long ride. Did you see that?
With a lot of climbing, that means you get to do a lot of descending too, and that's always fun.
Yeah. So those that aren't too familiar, if you are from this area, there's this ride out here out in Forest Hill, and it's Mosquito Ridge, and it's literally 10 miles down to this bottom of the river, and then you just go 10 miles. Well, you could go further than 10, but we went 10 miles up, and it's all climbing, and then you just turn around 10 miles down and 10 miles up, 40 some miles of hour climbing both ways. Well, yeah, that's about what hour one way, 40 some the other. It was fun.
Now I heard the you can make a loop out of that, but a couple of years ago part of the loop got washed out. Do you know if that road's open, or is it still just an out and back available?
So last year, what's his name? John Novikov and we went out there, and he coerced me into crossing this washout, and then you're going up the road. It's like Oxbow, and there was down trees like every 20 feet or so. And so it was just too much. I've heard that it's opened up now. So, hey, maybe that's, something. Go try
next
that
week.
out.
That's what you guys should try next week. Do the loop.
Yeah, exactly. So UAE, they want to do Flèche Wallonne. They get canceled out of that. There was a false positive, I guess. But first it was noted that it was a positive COVID test. Now they're showing that they had false positives. So the team doesn't get to do that. Have you heard if they are able to do what's coming up? Yeah.
I haven't heard, but I did see that Pogacar did like a 200-kilometer recon ride. Yeah. And if he's doing that, my assumption is that, he's probably going to do it. But I assume that's all contingent upon them not having another false positive. I don't know when they do the testing relative to the race. So
we can look at some of these news articles here. So, the team did a withdrawal, and Diego Luisi, who had not, their whole team had been vaccinated. He wasn't because he has a heart issue, I guess. But he had a positive, and then they retested a bunch right after, and they're like, no, we got negatives. So they were like, this kind of sucks. But I guess the way that the protocol goes with them, they were still not allowed to enter the race. They got pushed out of that. And then this is what we saw yesterday was the 200 kilometers reconnaissance ride, which on all over the news, they were making like kind of a big deal about it, about 200 kilometers, which, really isn't that much for what these guys do in general, right? I mean,
yeah, I would. I mean, how long was Flèche Wallonne?
Probably that, if not more.
And it was probably a lot harder than a recon ride, right?
Yeah. So I'm not sure why it was like such a news story. And let me just pull this up here. Our buddy Jonathan Baker yesterday or Tuesday, he did a 200-mile ride up Nevada City. Chico does a group ride up there, the slow 50 or whatever those guys call it. And then comes on back home. And I just put it up on the screen if anybody wanted to check that out. That's 200 miles. It's why, I mean, what's the big deal about 200 kilometers? Why is this getting a big deal?
Have you looked around in any local news to see if that's popped up? That might be a big headline in the Chico Tribune.
Chico. Well, I think Kurt goes up there and does that, but he drives. And I think the carpooling, he lives in Nevada, up in that same area. I don't want to dox him here, but slow 50. But the carpooling reality for Jonathan Baker must have been too much to carpool with Kurt. So he just said, I'm going to F it. I'm going to do 200-mile bike ride. That's much less painful.
I mean, if it really gets down to it and winter conditions are tight or something like that, Kurt's got that big van and he could just have a trainer set up in the back for Jonathan and he could still drive him there and Jonathan could get miles in. So
right.
There's workarounds.
So the ride I did yesterday, there's this one section. It's a 10-mile climb or more, but it keeps going on. But that's where we stopped. Talansky owns the KOM there, and I think third is, and then it's Talansky, Tori Phillips, I think, and then Jonathan Baker, and he just put it up. Dude's like in his 40s, riding the best ever. It's crazy.
That's impressive. Was this road cycling Talansky or is this triathlon Talansky?
No, this is back in the day when he used to have a different name when he would go out there and train out there. I think Jesse Moore would have him come out there and actually do that. So that was when he was in the midst of, Tour de France and everything else. So Jonathan Baker, you might have your chance. I don't know. Someone, Notorious PDT, not sure who that is, says, poor Kurt, be nice. This is being nice to Kurt.
I think that is Kurt.
You know what? It might be. Okay. What do you do? It's okay. We'll get back to Amstel Gold, Flesh Alone, all these here. But I took Cavendish comes out, goes to and does the Tour of Turkey, presidential Tour of Turkey in Turkey, and ends up winning 4 stages. What is your take on that? I was not necessarily critical. I wasn't like gushing over it because the competition, it was basically he, Greipel, and Philipsen. And that was kind of the sprinting. And, what has Greipel done? Nothing. Philipsen now beat him at Scheldeprijs. So that was actually impressive. Beat Bennett. But when you only have those teams and your team is out there leading you out, although I didn't see great lead outs for him. Anyway, I was like, but yeah, you win 4 races. So, who's the asshole here? Me? But what do you think of those results?
I thought it was impressive. I mean, it's not easy to win those races, right? So he definitely seemed a lot more confident. I think he was like headbutting and forcing his way through like the Cavendish of old. So maybe he's got a little extra. Maybe this is just enough to kind of light that fire and make him feel competitive again. It's good racing. Philipsen's no slouch, and he won a couple stages, and I think Rowley won a stage as well, which may speak to the level of competition. But you got to beat who's there, and he did that 4 times. So not too shabby.
No. Once again, it's kind of interesting to see him making this emergence back here. When I had Rob Dalto on the show, I had talked about how I expected Froome to win a stage before Cavendish, or a race. Down 4. Yeah, and we'll talk about him coming in. So look, the Tour of Turkey, like I also said, when a Team Delco rider wins the GC, like you said, Rowley won. And although that I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He had some impressive sprints there anyway. Did you see?
But then they got I think they got kicked out of the race, right, because of a COVID.
Right, I think so. Yeah. Have you heard anything follow up on that?
No, I have not.
Excellent. Okay, so Tour of Turkey, it was Jose Diaz, Manuel Diaz, the one that Jay Vine was in second place for Alpecin Phoenix. So do you know much about him? He's an Aussie.
I do not. No.
Okay.
What do you know about him?
A little bit more, but I think he was doing well in the little mishmash of the Tour Down Under, and I think he got a contract for Alpecin based on like some Zwift contract.
Okay. So, the Zwift Race Academy, is that what it was?
Something like
that.
Or
was it because he did like just really well on Zwift? I don't know.
Right. Speaking of which, I did a group ride this week, and Josh Carling, a local up here, came out and did it, and he's been doing a lot of Zwifting, and he's finally breaking out and getting out into the outside world. So it was good to see that. But it's that Zwifting whole sphere, really took off last year. Do you think there's going to be a continuance of that and Zwift in the Olympics? As Notorious PDT, who just outed himself to me, so I know who that is now. It's not Kurt. Zwift in the Olympics. Is that going to be a thing, Chris?
Is the Olympics going to be a thing? I don't know. We got to figure that out first, right?
Is Zwift in the Olympics going to be a thing?
Yeah, I think it's going to be here to stay. I think there's enough people that like it. How did Josh's Zwift skills transfer over to the road?
He's fine. He got up in a little break. He got in a move that was pretty. I couldn't go with it. Our friend Matt Tufts, hint. He went up the road. He made it up there, and then they killed it. And those guys went and did the river ride this last week. So. I think.
Did he use like power boosts or anything like that in the middle of the ride?
He did have an interesting looking bike. It didn't look. It looked more like Tron like. So I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So did you see? Let's start off with some of the races that we had here. Amstel Gold. Yeah. So Amstel Gold comes about, and we have the women's race, we have the men's race. And did you see either one of those?
I would say I saw bits and pieces of both.
Okay. I saw the very finish of the women's race, and Marianne Voss gets the win over Demi Vollering, and it looked like she was almost trying to do what had just happened with Widner and Vollering a few days earlier, where Voss goes to post up and almost gets pipped at the line. What is going on with these people?
Got to get through the finish line first, right? Now correct me if I'm wrong. This is the one where Niewiadoma got in a kind of two-up move, and Longo Borghini wouldn't pull through, and they just kind of. I watched a couple breakdowns of that race, and it just seemed like Borghini made some terrible decisions there, where A wouldn't pull through. Worst case, she gets second in that scenario, but refuses to pull through until the group catches them, and then with nobody in that group, leads out the sprint to finish like eighth. It just seemed like kind of poor tactics there. But yeah, I mean, if Voss is coming down with the group, she's obviously got a good shot to win the sprint, and did, even with the early post up.
I am going to. I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name. He was a French rider, rode when Lance did. He was always in. He was not a GC rider. I'm trying to remember his name, but he was in a break with Chris Horner in the Tour de France, and they had a similar situation. The two of them coming down. Chris was with Sonia Duval. Chris decided he's not going to beat this guy in the sprint necessarily, but he's not going. He only wants to win, so he sits and won't come around, and the whole pack swallows him up with like 200 to go. And there was in this. I'm trying to remember this guy's name. He was obviously upset. And Chris, defends it like, look, I'm here to win. Second place means nothing, so I'm not going to even give an attempt. I don't know. This seems like a similar situation here, and I don't know what to really say about that, other than I would probably have pulled through because the chance of getting top two in the Tour seemed like a great ass,
yeah,
in your calendar. Your Palmares, I guess. Okay, so the men's race. We come down. How impressed have you been with, first of all, I know Chris Horner, speaking of him, he's been really critical of Jumbo doing a lot of work, Movistar doing a lot of work when they're not necessary, other teams doing things. He's very critical on that. It's great. I love the armchair quarterback stuff. But how was your feeling coming into this race, Amstel Gold, to see Jumbo and then Pidcock and the Kona Quick Step teams and kind of how everything played out?
I didn't see much of it. And I think I even sent you a message in like the last 10 or 15K of the race, like, where's Wout's team? What's going on? Why is he up here all by himself? And you pointed out that, he had Primoz Roglic doing a lot of work for him. He had a couple other guys doing a lot of work for him. So I missed that kind of team aspect of it and only caught it when he was all by himself in the, field of 30 or 40.
Yeah, actually, you're right. So he had done way too much work. You've seen this in multiple races, Ghent and different ones coming up. This one he held back. Jonas was up there. He had other riders. Primoz Roglic was chasing everything down and just looked very spry, and then got a flat with like 20K or so to go. So he was not in to help, but it didn't matter because Pidcock had already taken off and they were up there alone. And then you come down to this finish and you're like, you're going to get a replay. Was it Wevelgem where Pidcock had won, or E3 or one of these things that we just had? You beat him. And now you get a replay of that. And those guys are doing exactly what you're talking about, like not pulling through and then going from almost a dead start. I've of the opinion with Wout that he needs to have the full, when he's sprinting against like the best sprinters in the world, he does just fine. And then he's getting beat by climbers in the other ones. It's almost like he needs the full, up to speed sprint. He's a little better at it.
Yeah. And, Pidcock's obviously got a good jump, and he proved that in the race a couple weeks ago, whichever one it was that he beat Wout in. So it was interesting to see Wout take that sprint from that slow of a speed and from the front instead of trying to force somebody else through.
Right. So that race, first of all, such an interesting thing with the profile, like 27 different climbs. It just beats you to death all day long. Coming down at the end, then they had it was a different route that they had. I mishmashed up, I guess, this year. And
it was a loop that they had to do for, I guess, COVID restrictions. And one of the things I think people pointed out was, they did the lap or the loop, 12, 13 times. On the last one, they didn't go up the Cauberg the last time, which would have probably changed the dynamic of that trio, if you will, coming into the finish, because that may have given Schachmann a better opportunity to win if he could have put in a blistering attack up a climb, because he tried to make a move with like 1K to go or 2K to go. Didn't stick at all because it was a relatively gentle climb that they were going up. But it was interesting to see the different course, and I'm curious to know what the reason was for eliminating that climb the last lap. It just seems odd to take it out from that.
It does, and I'm sure if we did any prep for this show, we'd probably have figured that out by now. There's probably something written out of there, but I don't think Shackman. Just first of all, the way Pidcock, I've seen him in these early classics, like attacking on these climbs. I mean, there's times when Wout's doing everything he can to hang on his wheel and then won't go through right away. So I don't know that Shackman gets away, but I think he was content to sit in there for third.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was. I don't know. If he was content to get third, I think he would have just kind of kept the pace fast and not had it come so close with the group charging in behind him. So I think maybe he had hoped that, hey, maybe these two guys don't have sharp legs and one of them will jump too early and I'll be in a good position to come around for the win. So I think he played it smart. I think he was probably feeling like he might have a shot if things went his way, but I think you could tell maybe 3 pedal strokes into the final sprint that he did not have it.
Right. So let's just talk about the big elephant in the room, which is I found this and I read it last night. It was a pretty good little article here about the controversial photo finish. So you see the photo finish, and evidently, they always show us the photo finish that the officials are using, but they never were showing that. They just kept showing the video from the side. And I think that was part of the problem that you had here, which is they weren't conveying that over to the broadcast. So everyone was just seeing the camera video. And then they talk about, so this article on Cycling Tips breaks down and they really talk about the camera that is used for the finish line, taking like 3,500, video or photos per second. And then they're able to outline that out with the blurred background and the way it's warped and all this other stuff to actually be able to see the finish. Do you think it was the right call?
I don't know. It's tough to say, right? Because I think I had asked this on the last in your last podcast where we were looking at one of the finish lines, and I was like, "What's the finish line here? Which one of the many lines that they're riding up to is the finish line?" And somebody chimed in. It's the start of the black line on the larger white line, and is that really the case in this situation? Because it sounds like, when you're dealing with black tires needing to cross black lines, maybe that's not the right thing to be looking at. And it seems like it's slightly arbitrary and maybe at the discretion of the race director. And if so, is that something that's kind of conveyed to the riders beforehand or during the race? I don't know. Because if you're doing a bike throw, you're really trying to gauge which one of those mini lines and portions of the lines you're doing a bike throw to. Hard to say.
I know, you're right. And now you look here. I don't know if you could see this last one here. I could actually see a gap on Pidcock's wheel compared to Wout's. Maybe it's tough to tell.
And now what's the perspective of that picture though? Which one of the lines is that taken at? And is that the line that was communicated in like the race Bible? I don't know.
Oh, because you're saying Pidcock maybe timed his throw to something that was in the race Bible rather than what was actually in real world.
Yeah. I don't know. Hey, yeah, I mean, you could probably take a dozen pictures within that kind of 5 to 7 inch range and have a slew of different results. I mean, it seemed like it was darn close. But at the end, I mean, if this is the official picture that they're using and based on that photo, then obviously Wout's won.
What about the different profile tires that they were using? How did that come into about?
I don't know, was Wout using like 30s or 28s versus Pidcock's 26s, and then there's just kind of that much more.
I think that's what it was. I think that's actually the key element there that had to do with it.
So ride the biggest tire you can. You're going to start seeing people out on the group ride running like 35s.
Right, those
gravel tires for all.
Right. Do you normally we don't have finish line photo cameras on the group rides, so that's the problem.
Sometimes we do. We get somebody out there that may have been dropped and they'll kind of route themselves over to the finish line. And
that's how
I don't think they're carrying that level of technology in their back pocket, though.
That's how we saw Kurt a few years ago, actually, podium on the River Ride World Championships. Remember that?
I thought he won. Didn't he win?
Well, according to him, he DQ'd everyone else, but I don't know if that's legit.
Sounds like it. Now, if you go back to that picture that you had up.
Yeah.
What's with your computer there? It looks like you're on a different platform.
I'm on a Mac now. Yeah.
Okay.
Happy with that?
Interesting. I'll have to get some more input on that.
Well, I think you've been on a group text. We've probably got a lot of input. Just read those off.
Yeah. I haven't read those yet. I'm on text number 25.
Gotcha. Well, you got some work to do. No, so this computer setup seems to be working fine. I don't know. We'll be happy with it. Flesh Wallone. So were you able to watch this midweek classic that you basically have everyone trudge around for 200 some kilometers and then the fastest one up the last 1K climb?
I did. Yeah, I caught much like Amstel Gold, I think I caught about the last 25K or so, which I think was probably all you really needed to watch, right?
I think so. Definitely that. Let's go to the women first. Van der Bergen. And if you see our open, there's two people that kind of traipse across the screen there in the little video. And those are Anna van der Bergen, who world champion at the women's, and Mola there. And then Julian Alaphilippe, spoiler, the men's. And we kind of had that. She ends up winning this over Nieuwedome, Longo Borghini, Van Vleut, Garcia. And the top American was in 7th place, Ruth Widner. We had Double Hickok down there in 14th, Leah Thomas 16th, Faulkner in 17th. So a little, some Americans. Taylor Wiles 34th, not too bad. So
pretty unexpected win for Van der Bergen on that, huh?
Right,
we would have seen that one coming.
He has not won that very many times. How many times?
I think 7 in a row now. 7.
Right. By the way, a little thing I saw last night. I was going through the winners of Liège. Do you know how many times since 2003 the most consistent winner is? 2001, I think.
I would guess Alejandro Valverde.
Right, 6 times.
Yeah,
I did not realize it was that much. That's impressive.
And how did he do this? No, I'm thinking of Flesh Wallone. He did well there.
He did. He's coming to. I think he was third. He was third, and Mike Woods was spoiler here was 4th. So I just want to. We'll play this here real quick. A little bit of a video coming up on the final, and the last bit. Let's see if we can show it here. So this is the last 1K. You can see right here with 300 to go. I think Roglic attacked inside that 300 to go area, and he
went earlier than that. I think he went at like 4.
Yeah, it was really close to that. And I guess they set like the fastest time up the Maria de Huy.
Yes.
So that's pretty impressive as well. So I don't know what he said. He couldn't do much more. My only thing is maybe don't go so far out, because then you're actually able to come off of someone's wheel where it's a little bit of a carrot like Alaphilippe. But when Alaphilippe sets the fastest time, I mean, what are you really going to do, right?
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, Roglic is probably a relatively smart racer and knows what his skill set is versus Alaphilippe's. And, Alaphilippe's probably got the quicker snap. So for Roglic, it makes sense to go early, knowing that if he waits too long, he's not going to be able to contend with Alaphilippe's late jump. So it seems like maybe that's the best move for him. I think it would have been really interesting to have seen Pogačar in this, because he's a fantastic climber and has a really good jump too, especially for a finish like this. I think he would have been a good contender in there.
What's really impressive is you see Alaphilippe, you see Roglic, you see I'm getting a little feedback. You also see Roglic, Pogačar. You see them kicking really well and having those mountaintop finishes, being able to do that. So this was the perfect one, and it would have been good to see a Pogačar in there. No photo finish for this one though.
No.
Yeah. So what do we have coming up for Liège? Are you excited about that at all?
Oh, I'm so excited. When is it?
I think it's Sunday.
Okay.
Let's take a look. Go ahead.
Well, it would be interesting to see who actually gets in there, and if UAE's in there. It'd be nice to have Pogačar race.
I agree. And so we could take a look, kind of like I said, the top competitors: Roglic, Pogačar, Alaphilippe, Valverde, Carapaz, Almeida, Martin Guillaume, Fulsang, Yates, and Enric Mas. You've probably got anybody from EF. How come we just don't really see them coming to the fore? And I think Mike Woods is another one that you've got to throw in the top competitors in the list there.
Last year was a really fun race. Last year had a really interesting finish, and
yeah.
And just it was interesting the way the schedule worked out. I think Alaphilippe was in the World Championship jersey. How many times has somebody won that race twice in the World Championship jersey? Granted, he didn't win last year, but be an interesting opportunity to have done that.
Liège?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because he should have won. I mean, you know, you don't think he
Lots
should
of
have?
ways to look at that. Oh, well, he lost because he posted up early, right?
Yes.
And Primo's got him on the bike throw, so he got second there, and then he got relegated
Oh,
because
okay.
he sprinted like a nutcase in the last 2K. I think
Right.
he tried his hardest to crash everybody out as much as he could there in the finish.
I saw him just. I'm trying to remember. Was it Wallone? One of these races in the field there where they were coming in, and he was doing that same kind of stuff. He is really sketchy on the bike. I don't know what it is about him that you know. And then we saw him obviously crash out with a motorbike last year.
Right. And then I think last year, three of the top five in the finish were Slovenians because Matej Mahoric kind of descended
Right.
his way across the gap and joined the lead four. So they had a good race last year, the Slovenians.
They did. So you had, well, let's just take a Hershey. Hopefully he's back in there. Now he's
Yeah.
teamed up with Pogacar. They actually have a good team coming in because they've got Pogacar. They have Formulo. They have Brandon McNulty. They have a solid squad if they're allowed to actually race.
Right.
Mixed in with Roglic and his group. Fulsang, he's kind of coming back and or thinking he's going to. I know he's been actually just focusing on the Olympics. It's a little odd thing to be focusing on all year, but that's what he's got going on. So who's your pick for this? And is Pitcock doing this one? Do you know?
I'm looking at the starting list right now. He is in there. Yeah.
Okay. I'm super impressed with him and how he's been riding, and I can't imagine that this would be, unless he's fallen off on his fitness, that this is going to be anything different. And look for those last few climbs, the Falcon, the I don't remember the name of all these ones, but they're pretty heavy coming into the finish there. This race when Mike Woods was, I think it was when Bob Jungels won a few years ago, and Woods was second or third with Roman Bardet, that it had that normal pitch up into Liège that was more of a gradual thing and then kind of a harder little climb. They didn't have that last year. Obviously, it came down with the sprint. Do you know how the finish is this year?
I do not.
Excellent work. All right. One last thing I want to talk about is the Tour of the Alps. I don't know if you've seen any of that race going on. It's been pretty interesting. I'm so glad that the Yates brothers are split so that I could tell who's who now. Simon Yates stayed with the team, and Adam Yates abandoned and went to Ineos. That's how I remember it now.
Okay.
And they're both riding well, and Adam Yates is tearing everybody up on these climbs. Attacked like way out the other day and then was going again, and we saw two guys go down down in the corner, this switchbacks that they had in Switzerland there. He's up the road with Pil Bilbao and another guy, and behind Dan Martin's trying to catch on, and Dan Martin, they even waving people down to slow down for this thing, and Dan just doesn't commit to the corner and goes straight off the edge, then breaks enough and then just falls down. And it was Roman. Oh, I know. It was Jai Hindley. He also went down in that thing, and he had to have some stitches. So
bummer.
Yeah.
And I know this was kind of Froome's self-proclaimed tune-up race just to really make sure his legs were there for his tour prep. How's he doing?
So stage one, he lost 5 minutes. I can't think that it was a stage where Johnny Moscon wins, and it's not really it's a big group finish. So I don't know what happened. He just kind of sat up. Next day, he was trying to get in the break. He actually gets in the break on stage 4 or 3, one of those two. Stage 4. And then they get caught right at the bottom of the big climb, and I think he got kind of dispatched at that point. Lost 14 minutes or so, but he's been trying, and he was in the break all day on stage 4. So I don't think he's come around like Cavendish is. He's not lighting up the world, but he's given it the old Froome try. So
yeah, I mean, do you feel like he's gonna be a contender in any of the Grand Tours, or is he kind of at best going to be relegated to support roles?
Man, you just can't imagine that you would be coming into form enough without being able to kind of at least be in a pack of 20 on a climb, top 20 there. I don't know what he's doing, unless he thinks that like going out and being in the break all day is in working, overly working until the final climb is the way to go about it and get into fitness. I don't know. He says his legs are coming around, but Froome, he's always Mr. kind of like party line positive guy, whether it's true or not. So I don't know. I would like to see him, because the more people we have in that mix, that's what makes the tour fun. The days I did like where, the old Froome days or even Lance, where it's just domination from one. Actually, I enjoyed those Lance ones at the time. But if it's someone I'm not pulling for, the domination is a little bit old. So this last tour was fun, right? You had Roglic and Pogacar and a few guys up there. And that's what I've enjoyed about the Vuelta and the Giro. So it would be good to see him competitive. I don't know if he's going to be working for Dan Martin, Mike Wood.
Yeah, it depends. And this last tour was kind of fun and unique because it was so compressed with all the other grand tours kind of going on almost at the same time.
Yeah, that's totally true. Okay, so last thing we have to talk about here, maybe we'll throw this up on the screen, is I don't know if anybody could actually read this, but this is the race calendar for the NCNCA. So we throw some of these up here that now is getting stacked. So we've got several races here in the month of April, some in May, quite a few in May, June, July, August. So we're starting to get a bunch of races getting put on there. Some early bird crits. We're going to have another Chowchilla here in the 3rd of May. Livermore is doing those races. I guess one's canceled. Chowchilla again in the first. May. There we go. Early birds, Granville, virtual Berkeley Hills Road Race. I guess that's a virtual race. Some other ones. Folsom Crit for us is on the calendar for the 22nd of May. Are you going to be able to make that?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I geographically, I don't have much of an excuse. I mean, it's less than a mile from my front door, so I feel like I should go in some capacity. One thing to note, and if you're thinking about doing a race, make sure to look at the race flyers, because some races are not doing day of registration. Like Folsom in particular is pre-reg only. So if you're thinking, I'll kind of see how I'm feeling that day, well, too late. Sorry. So make sure you incorporate that. I think it's probably something to appease the county to reduce the lines that inevitably form at the registration tables.
But you're going to have to pick up a number.
Yeah, but that's probably a little easier and quicker. My guess is it's probably just something that was offered to appease the permitting process.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're doing one, you're kind of doing the same. You got to pick up a number.
Yeah. Really, unless they're able to kind of do that in a kind of hands-off thing where you go up and there's a stack of numbers, you get yours and you get out of the way. I don't know. Okay. We'll see. But I do know that the Chowchilla one that you guys did, that's up on for round 2, May 1st, which looks like it's a Saturday on this schedule here.
Yeah, I believe. Oh, okay. Yeah, similar to last time. So good stuff. That one I'm gonna try to make. I've got some family things coming up, with graduation and birthdays and everything else. So sometimes it's tough, but do what we can do. Copperopolis is on there. I mean, Regalado Road Race, Cantua Creek, Folsom Crit, 4th of July Crit. Whoa, 4th of July Crit, Bariani. Get Bariani down there in July. How do you like that?
Ooh, that's gonna be brutal.
Yeah. Winners looks like it's a normal time here. Sassoon, Harbor, Dunnigan, Patterson. I'm kind of liking it. Let's shake up the calendar a little bit and see what happens. So you can find that out on the NCNCA page or the Facebook page. Everybody check that out.
It'll be interesting because I know like Copperopolis, Regalado, and Cantua Creek are usually not well attended. And some of it's where they fall on the calendar. Some of it's Copperopolis is a really hard race. With everybody is excited to get out and race. I'm curious to see if those have an improvement in turnout.
Yes. Why don't you go out there and report for us for that?
You got it. I'll kind of.
Or you could just look at results afterwards and see how many showed up.
It's a good way to do it.
Do you have a rider of the week to pick for us?
And
it could be Jonathan Baker.
I think at the professional level, we can say Wout van Aert for he's come in second place quite a few times. It's good to see him maybe get a win. Depends on which side of the finish line you're calling the finish line, but he was officially named the winner, so that counts, right?
Right. I'm of the mind where he and Van der Poel are so fascinating because at some point you're like, oh my goodness, they're so dominant, and then they lose in such weird fashion, so you don't expect them to, and it keeps you on your toes. And I'm liking that. My rider of the week is going to be, and this is a little bit of sarcasm here. Alex Howes gets in the break at Flèche Wallonne. He had to get a service car's bike. It looked like he said he was like riding his dad's bike, and evidently the cleats work, so he was able to ride there. And then I think he ended up getting a replacement bike. But I was a little disappointed. I looked at that, and my first thought is like, oh yeah, we didn't have a national championships last year, so he's longest standing U.S. championship rider, I guess, unless you win it back to back years. And also knowing that he was going to get spit out of the break before they got caught, and that's exactly what happened. It was a little disappointing. I mean, nothing against Alex Howes, just like he's there, makes you realize that we just get the national champion that just isn't quite up to snuff. So it was a little disappointing.
Yeah, I think then, if you want a national champion that's up to snuff, you got to pick who you want to win, right? Like Sepp Kuss is probably one who would make a good showing in the national championship jersey. So we'd have to cater our course accordingly to kind of pre-select that winner. But
right, and that doesn't really happen. I mean, a few years ago we had Ben King before he really came into prominence. It would have been cool to see him wearing that jersey while he's winning stages of the Vuelta. But what it is. Anything else you have for us? And I'll let you get out here. 30 some minutes in, let you get out and get back to work.
I don't think so. I think I'm just playing catch up here on all things bike racing. So
all right. Well, then we have the Giro coming up pretty soon too, so that should be exciting. Oh, last thing we'll do. Did you see that Flow Bikes has been putting in commercials in their paid for platform?
I saw a lot of chatter about it, and it seemed like everybody was really excited to see more commercials at critical parts of bike races after having paid $150 for the year. So,
right.
Not sure if they're really that hurt for revenue, and that's their way to recoup some monies. But it didn't seem like they're going to retain many viewers after this year of subscriptions.
Right. I mean, when you look at the cost difference between that and GCN, it's a world of difference.
Yeah.
And so what's the point? And then they don't really show that many races, and GCN has a ton more. And if you really have a problem, just get a VPN. You can get all those, out other races that you wouldn't be able to get. So
right.
That's the solution. Well,
and also I don't think GCN has tried to cancel your YouTube show either. So
they have not. I'm going to probably put this show on Odyssey. I know you've heard of that. It's kind of the YouTube alternative. And I don't think they really have much censoring and worry about that kind of stuff. So maybe I'll be able to do a little bit more stuff with like we did, like the video I showed today. I had to go find that from some, French speaking or Spanish speaking, and then put it on there so that I don't get nailed with that. Copyright claims. All right. Thank you, Chris. Once again, hope to see you. Are you going to be out on the ride, doing any group rides yet? I know you've all been vaccinated and getting fit again.
Depends on what time I wake up. I found the weekend group rides start too early for me, so we'll see.
Too early. Well, do the river ride. I think it starts at 9, so you're gonna be able to take that one on, or 10.
10? That's pretty tough. We'll see.
Let us know. There's dangerous rides out there, everybody. Post it on your Strava title. Thanks. 234 episodes in the books. Thanks once again, Chris. Let you get back to work. I hope everyone has a good weekend. Bye.